Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 872, Richard's here and we've got lots to talk about. He's back and we're talking about his going to see the space shuttle. I'll be talking about Synthfest 2022 event I went to at the weekend, which was great fun. We're talking about Microsoft Ignite, what we're going to expect to see from there, and the Surface announcements that's going to be happening. So by the time you watch or listen to this, they will happen, but we didn't know. So we'll be talking about what we're going to see there. We'll be talking about Running Doom on Notepad, VR, lots of stuff. So, and a bit retro computing as well. So let's get straight to Richard. So Richard, good evening.
Good evening, Ian. How are you?
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Welcome back. I think you were somewhere. I can't remember. You were away last week.
Yeah, I was in Los Angeles last week.
Oh, that was right. How was your trip to Los Angeles?
It's very good. Yeah. Went to. It was a conference. It's HashiConf, which is a HashiCorp put it on their one of these sort of multi-cloud companies where you have one API that talks to everything. So yeah, really, really good. Although while they're also obviously made the pilgrimage to go and see the space shuttle out there, which is very cool. And also a car museum too. So yeah.
Oh, excellent. So how was the space shuttle? I bet that's good.
Yeah, it's Endeavour. So it's the one that they wheeled through LA to get to its Museum of the California Science Center. It's actually free to go and see. And yeah, basically it's just sat there. It's not on wheels, so it's not like the one in Washington. And it's not like the one in Florida, which is kind of mounted as though it's on orbit. So it's just kind of parked there. I think their plan is in the next 3 or 4 years is to erect it vertically. They've got I think one of the last external tanks as well, which they're going to attach it to, and some boosters. So you'll see it as it would have been about to launch.
Oh,
and
fantastic.
then they're going to build out like I think viewing platforms around it. And I think at the top there'll be a glass platform you can stand on and look down onto it. So it'll be amazing. But I gather, I mean, that's officially supposed to open in 2025. But one of the people there said, yeah, it'll be 2026, and then was very quick to assure me that even though it's been done in an earthquake zone, it'll be fine.
Like these space things, it takes a bit longer than they originally said. Exactly.
But actually, I mean, I would strongly recommend anyone who's happens to be in LA for whatever reason, it'd be worthwhile going to visit the California Science Center because they've got all kinds of stuff there. If you're a space nerd like me, there is just tons of stuff there to look at, as well as everything else you'd expect to see in a science center. And the best thing is, most of it is that the main displays are just free. It's great.
Oh, that is good. Yeah. Oh well, that sounds good. Well, I went to an interesting event on Saturday. I went to Synthfest 2022.
Did you?
Which is the first. I'd actually only recently heard of it.
Did you bring any of your tunes?
Well, yeah. My tunes go with me everywhere. You never know. But yeah, I went, and it was the first one of these shows I've been to for a while, and it was the first one that for a while I'd been as a normal punter rather than press or media or special invites or I didn't really necessarily I didn't take all my kit with me because I just went to enjoy it. But it was a great event. It was organised by Sound on Sound magazine, which anybody in any interest in music technology will know. That magazine's been around since mid 80s, something like that. One of the few magazines that's still making real magazines as well. It was a great event in Sheffield at the Octagon there. All the big manufacturers were there, a lot of the big manufacturers, so Korg, Yamaha, Roland, but then some of the more exotic stuff like Moog and lots of independent type stuff as well. And it was just a big synth thing where you could go around, try things and put things on and talk to people. It was really good.
Did you make sure you left your credit card at home?
Yes, I nearly. There was one of the Korg Volcas, the little ones, which I've got a few of them up there. They were doing one for 50 quid, which is this Korg, the sampler, but it probably doesn't necessarily need for my side music, so I resisted. Probably helped because my sons came with me and they would have reported back if I spent too much. So
exactly. Although, hey, I saw on Twitter you're looking at sort of publishing some more of your music to a wider audience.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. I should be able to talk about that next week, actually, when I've tried it. So thanks to a former MVP, actually, who Alan Mendovich.
Doesn't he do Ad Duplex?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he because I put that on my little message on Twitter saying, "Is what's in it?" Because there's so much. It's a bit of a minefield. Uploading to SoundCloud is just a question of creating an account, uploading your music. The Spotify and iTunes and all that, they're a minefield. So anyway, so I asked, and Alan kindly replied, and he's used DistroKid, which I've heard mentioned a few times actually.
I mean, I've heard good things about Bandcamp as well.
Yes, there's a few, and they've all got different things, different ways of doing it. There's some fee involved in nearly all of them. And of course, then when people start streaming your stuff and getting millions of streams, you get all the revenue comes flowing in. So, of course, I'll be looking forward to that. But
all those millions of streams again. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, I've decided I used Alan's link that he sent me, so I got a bit of a discount, and he gets a bit of a kickback as well, which is nice because he took time to recommend it for me. So, in fact, he's written a blog post about his experience with it, so which I read as well. So anyway, so I've got that signed up. I'm not doing it for world domination of music. I'm doing it just so that I can say to people, oh yeah, you can find my music on Spotify. It's a bit like it's a bit like writing a book or something. It's just something you're doing for the sake of doing it. Really is to something not tangible from all these hours spent tweaking around. So so that's the idea. So I've got a collection. I've probably got about 20 odd songs that I could use, but I've got a collection of say 10 that I think kind of would best suit that. So I've got to think about like artwork and all that kind of thing. So all DIY stuff, but a lot of it actually fits in with the synthwave genre, which is quite nice. So I may be able to sort of jump on the back of that really, because I didn't deliberately do it that way. It's just my style that I'm doing at the moment, and it happens to fit with that sort of Stranger Things and that revival, that 80s kind of UV thing, Vangelis. So so I'm going to talk. I'll talk about that. I'll get on with that next week as well. I'll tell you what I did find though. It's quite good. I went as a punter to that show but there is a whole nother world of like the circles of geekdom that we've got, with all that kind of stuff. There's a whole nother world of that for the music as well. But there's a thing, I don't know if you've seen it, called Eurorack. I don't know if you've heard of that. Which is this modular system. So, you buy a synthesizer like I've got over there. It's all in one box. Everything just, you can just start using it. But the idea of Eurorack is you can use modules, a bit like the Moog idea in the 60s. So you could buy an oscillator, which is a little module. You could buy a filter or a reverb or whatever, and you get these little modules, and they're all the standard size and power, so that you can put them together and patch them. But it's a whole thing of it's a whole world in itself. And there was people there with these amazing racks of things, which I'm going to share. I'll share a photo, I think. Let's share that. Yeah, okay. So this is, I don't know if you see on screen, but this is the way I sent a picture to my wife while I was there saying, is it okay if I bring this one back with me? For anybody on the audio, it is it's a little keyboard at the bottom with all these racks of stuff with all connectors in. But this is a whole thing, all this stuff. So that was great seeing all those. I did get to play with a Rhodes Chroma from early 80s, which was pretty nice as well. And there was all sorts of stuff. So as you can see, all different synthesizers and new stuff and old stuff, and I got to play with that. So that was great fun. So perhaps next time if I go, I should take my kit with me and actually do some recording. But plenty of stuff there. Of course, from the PC side, from the Windows side, Roland have got their SoundCloud. So as you imagine, just as there's cloud for everything else, there's cloud for musical instruments, and Roland have a monthly subscription where you can basically back virtual instruments. So classic Roland machines, drum machines, bass machines, synths, and you pay like £5 a month and you get access to all these. So there was quite a lot of things in there that I would say, I used to have one of them, and my son said, why did you sell it? I said, well, it's just what you did at the time. You traded up. But I think I found one synthesizer which I think I sold for about £400. It's probably worth about $5-6 grand now, but never mind. But anyway, a whole world of stuff there. So that was really good. It was really well organized. It wasn't overly expensive. There was plenty of displays to go around. The manufacturers support it as well. So it's kind of like a mini CES, but just for Music Club. So yeah, great going around chatting to people. So
that sounds great.
Yeah, there's a Microsoft event starts tomorrow as well, isn't there?
Oh yes, this is
it. Ignite, is it?
Ignite. It starts tomorrow. If you're one of the privileged few to actually get to go to it in person, otherwise it's all online again, which again is fine for most people. Any predictions? Because I'm currently in the glorious position where I used to get the big book of news under embargo, which is always a nightmare. And right now I haven't got anything at all. So I've no idea what's coming up. How exciting! I guess a lot of .NET maybe, Teams,
yes,
Teams, Microsoft 365. They might even mention that dirty word Windows. And I hope for the sake of the MR team, they do some HoloLens 2 stuff. I did see some HoloLens 2 in the promotional material, so you never know. Perhaps we'll see some mixed reality stuff.
Yeah, I think I did. I've got it here actually now, but I did look at the sort of the agenda. I've signed up for it for the online sessions as well. Did some in-person stuff in regions. I think they did something in Manchester as well, but it wasn't worth me.
I mean, obviously, press weren't invited anyway, and it was, it's kind of very small events, yeah. So I think they're planning to do some stuff in London too at some point. So they've already done some, and there's things happening. But yeah, it's not the Ignite of old. It's very much still a virtual event, which I don't know. I mean, I'm all in favour of having virtual events and hybrid events because it means people can choose to go or not. But I wish they'd have more of an option because it's if you're trying to report on these events, it really helps to be there in person.
Yeah, I was just trying to. The usual suspects are doing the talks. Satcher's got a session, Scott Guthrie, Panos Panay's got one. So whether they'll talk Windows.
I guess one good thing is one doesn't have to sit through yet another section and then a keynote, which are always very tedious. So I mean. The guy's no Steve Ballmer. He makes money hand over fist. It's fantastic, but yeah, you kind of sit through one of his keynotes. You think, I remember the old days when it was a bit madder than this.
Yeah, and everything's very obviously cloud focused now as well, isn't it? Yeah. So I don't know what Panos is going to be talking about. Whether I presume it'd be on Windows.
Yeah, because the service event hasn't happened yet, has it?
No, that's actually before, isn't it? There's a couple of hours before it starts. So I think that's tomorrow afternoon.
So I guess we'll see the Surface hardware that has been leaked massively already.
Yes,
which is I feel a little bit sorry for Microsoft and companies like Apple and things where this stuff now gets. I mean, I know it's often controlled leaking via marketing and PR people to various favored friendly outlets, but I think it is a shame that there's no longer really any surprises. So I mean, the surprise would be, hey, here's the Duo 3, or hey, the Neo's back. But I think it would just be, hey, it's another Surface and the headphones are better. We'll see.
Yeah, well we'll nail our predictions for that before after.
I would love them to release that Surface Studio screen as a standalone unit. That would be brilliant. I'd be first in line for that.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see that, but in terms of what we'll see at Ignite, if you can go on the sessions actually, so there's nothing too surprising on there. But really. it'll be Microsoft 365, a bit more Microsoft 365, and some Microsoft 365 and some Power Apps.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I mean, Build is where you'll see all the big dev stuff. So it'll be Power Platform, Microsoft 365. Yeah, definitely.
I don't know on the Windows side they'll introduce any of the new features. The first set of updates coming to 22. This is going to get really confusing now, isn't it? But the first set of updates coming to the update, which includes the tabbed file explorer, that kind of thing, is coming soon. So it's already announced on the blog.
And maybe a bug fix for the file hopping bug. You never know. And
the gaming performance and the Windows Hello one.
All the various things. It's almost like they didn't really test it properly before shipping it, even though it'd been in the inside channels for months and months and months. But so it's always
so I don't expect anything. I mean, from my sort of the from day job type stuff, the Power Platforms are quite interesting. So I'll probably watch through those and I'll try and catch the Panos one, but yeah, I'm not expecting anything great. New features coming to Windows. I think they'll save it for another event, or they just do it as they do now with features just trickling out through the Insider program.
Yeah, I think you're right.
In terms of the Surface event, I actually last week I said on the show I thought we'd be able to talk about it by now because I thought the event was Tuesday when it was Wednesday when we record on Tuesday. Yeah, there's a huge amount been sort of leaked on that, but basically no great surprise is that there's a Surface Laptop 5 and a Surface Pro 9. That's the two things that I've seen leaked about. But yeah.
Was there a Surface Studio coming out?
Well, that was sort of leaked by.
I saw it floated.
That a few weeks ago. So maybe that I haven't seen. What I have seen is the actual specs for the Surface line. The Intel 12 Gen i5. I mean, there's nothing that anybody's going to be surprised about.
No. I think that the one thing that could have been a surprise, which obviously has been very scored now, is of course the ARM. Yeah, the ARM.
Yeah.
Surface,
So what's not been leaked, as of we record it Tuesday, or I've not seen anyway, is anything on the Surface Go, or an ARM-based one, or an ARM-based Laptop 5. Because I'm just looking at what was leaked on here, and it's all Intel for the laptop and for the Pro 9. So yeah, there are rumors that there will be an ARM-based version of that, and yeah, I'd be interested to see if there's a new Surface Go.
I wonder if the one more thing part will be maybe Volterra.
Yes, it could be. Yeah, that's the development box, isn't it? The ARM development box.
Because that was announced obviously a long time ago now, and that's got to really appear, particularly if they're doing this the ARM. If the ARM Surface does turn up, they've got to really have a decent dev box for it.
Yeah, definitely.
And also for if they're rolling out more ARM into the Azure data centers.
Yeah, I certainly would be very interested in an ARM-powered Surface Go. Like I mentioned before, my Surface Go is really dying now. I can't get the keyboard to work at all. There's some dead spots, and as we started to travel more for meetings and things, I always did like the Surface Go as a companion for traveling. So, not take the Laptop Studio, which is a bit big really, when I'm already taking my work laptop. So yeah, so I'd be interested in that, but an ARM power one would definitely be interested. And you mentioned as well that the Surface Studio itself, I did see a couple of things on that it's just spec bumps, which would be a real shame if that's the case.
That would be such a shame, really.
Yeah,
but I guess inevitable, because I mean as it stands, I think you can still buy the Studio 2, can't you?
Yes, you can. Yeah, I think you can.
It looks very, very, very long in the tooth now, so a spec bump would make sense. But it was such a revolutionary concept. I kind of hope Microsoft doesn't shy away from doing more exciting things with it.
Yeah, and certainly there won't be a Surface Duo 3. That's I'm pretty confident about that. Although they may well announce Android 12L with a refreshed UI for the Duo 2, which is coming, which has got a more Windows 11 style UI to it.
Yeah, although I mean, my take on the Duo 2 is, as you know, it's with a mobile phone, you've got to really be doing the update once a year. I think that if they're going to leave the Duo 3 to next year, they're going to end up with this. It's going to. I'm just not sure how committed they are to the Duo line. Really, I mean, I almost think that they'd probably just let their friends at Samsung carry on doing their stuff with Microsoft using the Duo to say, here's how we'd like to do things, and then away their partners go.
Yeah, it is hard to see how. I mean, I was reading an article, and I can't remember exactly where it's from actually, about this Pixel they launched, the Google Pixel, and the sales of that have been pretty poor, haven't they? The whole Pixel range. Yeah,
they've been disastrous. I mean, I read something like that on Paul Thurrott's site. The sales look disastrous. I mean, I hadn't realized how bad it had been, but really bad.
And if Google can't sell Google phones, then what chance do Microsoft having selling Google phones?
Well, exactly. I mean, it's one does wonder if perhaps there's different teams in fighting within Microsoft around these areas, and I think Satya has shown that he's very, very quick to shut things down if he thinks they aren't working. So I mean, the Duo the Duo and Duo 2 are excellent ways to get into the Microsoft ecosystem, but you can see how they could also easily be culled and let Samsung carry on. I mean, I don't know if you saw today the Quest Pro VR announcement, the Meta Quest, that the Pro version is now officially announced, and one wonders where the HoloLens is going to stand with that device appearing.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure. I think me and Gary mentioned this the other week. The HoloLens as a physical product, and I've got mine down there, is dead, isn't it? And the whole MR stuff, because Alex Kipman's gone now, hasn't he? And I think that it's software only now, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. So I mean, when the Quest, the Meta Quest Pro was announced, Microsoft did say, yeah, it will support Microsoft 365. So yet another way of getting customers into that world. Yeah,
I've not seen that Quest Pro. So is that a mixed reality or is it a full VR type headset?
I think it's kind of VR, except it's got a lot of pass-through cameras.
Right.
So whereas the Quest 2 does okay sort of pass through, it's a bit iffy and a bit grainy. I think the full color pass through video, which the Quest Pro does, is much better. It's got high res outward facing cameras, which then feed back into the headset. So I think it's a lot better. It's just a lighter device than the Quest 2, which is a big chunky thing. You can, I think it's down to, I think it's got thinner lenses. So although they have, I think much like the HoloLens, they've shifted the battery to the back. So I think overall it's heavier. And again, this is breaking news. It's only just been officially announced. So I think it's heavier than the Quest 2, but the battery pack is now at the back, so it's more balanced. Whereas when you wear a Quest 2, you've got its traditional VR headset, the weight's all on the front. So so that's interesting. I mean, the main thing is I mean, obviously the lenses are thinner, so it doesn't look quite so. It looks less bulky, but it's also, I think, is it $1,500? I think it's the current price. I think it ships in a couple of weeks' time, so it's very expensive. And the Quest 2, which again we joked about the fact it's gone up in price, that's still going to ship anyway. That's more aimed at games, whereas the Quest Pro, I think, is aimed fairly and squarely at business customers.
It's just the VR stuff. It just seems we're always on the verge, don't we, of it becoming mainstream, and it doesn't quite tip over. Maybe the PlayStation, the new VR stuff for that will help, but it always seems to be a niche thing, and perhaps you just have to accept that it is a niche area and not a main computing platform.
I think, I mean, looking at the Quest Pro, I mean, I think it's we've still got a few more generations to go, but I mean they're getting there. I mean the Quest Pro, sure, it's a lot more expensive than the Quest 2. It's a lot cheaper than the HoloLens 2, a lot cheaper. So that's one thing. But yes, I think you're right. I mean, certainly during the pandemic, if VR wasn't able to take off when everyone is shut in their houses, then when is it going to take off?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I haven't fired mine up for some time, but I don't think that's particularly a VR issue. It's just my priorities have shifted. Whereas, like you said, during that time during lockdown, it would have been a good time to do that, but I've just got into doing other things with the music and stuff. So that's what takes up my time now. But I noticed where I look at it from my son, who has got loads of free time. He's working, but he has got a lot of. He's no family or anything else. He just sits. He can just do what he wants at the weekend. He's got one of the Quests, the original. I think it's the original one he got. But anyway, I don't think I've ever seen him use it for months. He plays on his PlayStation, plays on his Xbox, and he plays on his gaming PC, but never puts the headset on. It's on his desk, but I don't actually see him using it very often. So it's kind of, it's an amazing technology. I'm still blown away when I try it. It's brilliant. It's amazing, especially when you get the driving games and stuff like that. It just doesn't seem to have that longevity. Where perhaps it's because it's just there's a bit of a barrier. You've got to put it on and everything else. But I don't know. He's on his PlayStation with his friends, and that's where they're playing. So that's what they're on.
Well, exactly. I think one of the problems the Quest 2 has got in particular is it was great back in the days of the PlayStation 3 and things, but certainly, I've got an Xbox Series X, and the jump up in visual quality is such that when you put the Quest 2 on, it does feel like you step back into a previous generation, which in many ways you have, and that is one of the problems I think it's got. The other problem that I've got is is each time I put it on, it's then got away for an update for 100 years, which is always a pain. And that's my fault, I know, for not using it very often. But put it on and say, oh, I want to play a game. Oh, you can't play a game. You've got to update now, which is a problem I have with the Xbox, but it's not quite so in your face.
Yeah, I remember it with the Xbox, and that's where sometimes say on the music stuff, there's always a big debate about hardware versus virtual instruments and things like that. Whereas, if you get an inspiration, I can turn a device on, turn the keyboard on, and you plug your headphones in, and it's on. You have. I think if I had to wait, 15 minutes while every device, every instrument that I've got did an update, and then the software did an update, and then Windows. By the time I've got all that, I've got to go do something else. So that is still a thing that is a bit of an issue with the games. I mean, Xbox is. Every time because I play it so infrequently, every time I put it on, there's always a huge update for it, and then there's a huge update for the games as well.
And it's absolutely maddening because you want to turn it on and play a game, and you have to wait for 2 or 3 hours, which are just as an old person, I think, well, I remember plugging games and they start straight away. No, you have to wait 3 hours for an update. It's oh crikey! I mean, I've got Lego. Never have to wait for an update for Lego ever.
Although to be fair, I used to have to wait for a good 5 minutes for Attic Attack to load.
Yes, of course, and then you'd be faced with a terror of our tape loading error.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I taped it not very well.
I didn't hear you saying that, Ian. I'm sure you had the original version from Ultimate.
I'm sure I did actually. I think what was the ones that they put the loaders on? Everyone's Wally. Do you remember Everyone's a Wally?
Yeah, I remember it.
Yeah, they were pretty great. But they had a loader on it, so you couldn't copy it because they did the high speed. They did the high speed thing so that taping wouldn't work. Home taping can kill your computer, kill the industry. But, yeah, so you used to have to wait 5 minutes, but yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Especially perhaps when I was 13, 14, I had the spare time to sit and wait for this game to load because I didn't have much else to do. But when you get to busy lives and you think, oh great, I've got half an hour now where no one's going to bug me and I can come and play in a game, and then it's hours. It says like remaining time 1 hour 50, then forget it, I'm going to do something else. Or
if you try to play Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, it's a remaining time a day or so.
Yeah. So
I've decided I need to download 90 gigabytes. Why do you want 90 gigabytes?
Yeah,
I'm convinced those developers need to live somewhere where there is not massively high-speed gigabit broadband. Come and live here. Just try your game here, where you can't download things in seconds. You've got to wait for a long time. Yeah,
a lot of these things, especially if you, like I said, if you've got 20 minutes just to have a quick play, that would be ideal. Especially Flight Sim, I found was when I did try it, it was great for just pick it up, have a quick play. But if you've got to wait, you can't. That moment's gone, isn't it? You've got to go and put the rubbish out, or go to work, or look after your children, all these things that you end up doing. So yeah, it's I think they've got to try and improve that. But that's where streaming game services like Google Stadia would be great.
Oh dear, you mentioned the S word.
Well, what's happened?
Well, you know what's happened. I mean, I trust you and Gary discussed it last week. I've not got up yet, but
actually, yes. No, we didn't. No,
you didn't discuss. No. Killed by Google. Yes, it's one of those things. It's almost a chicken and egg situation that Stadia. I mean, I'm not sure people sign up to Stadia because they were waiting for Google to kill it, and so it never got the traction, and now Google have killed it. So. Yeah, Stadia. Stadia, for those that aren't aware, is Google's cloud gaming service, which they announced they're killing. I think week before last, it was. I think they're going to refund hardware purchases. Although if you bought software, I think you're fairly well snookered. What I found difficult with that was not so much the it was being killed announcement. It was the way they did it, because I know a few indie developers who actually had games lined up ready to go, and so suddenly they've been told at the same time as the rest of us, yeah, it's been killed now. Sorry, it'll be dead by the end of the year. So yeah, I mean, I guess that probably leaves what it's Nvidia and Microsoft as the only major players in town now.
Yeah. And it's not surprising knowing, the way that Google work. To be fair, Microsoft are also, as you alluded to earlier, Microsoft are good at killing things off.
Although Microsoft's version, which is xCloud, has got a vast library.
Yeah, it's just I did following on from that. I saw a few articles and kind of pointed to the culture at Google, which is you get promoted for launches and revamps, but not promoted for maintaining services and keeping them going and doing a good job behind them. So the incentive is always to launch and then move on, and then things get left and broken and then and forgotten about, or relaunch. Like I think that's every time that Gmail gets a new UI, that's a relaunch. So that gets some focus and then it gets forgotten about a bit. So
yeah, I mean the Gmail UI is quite frankly awful now. It's got really difficult to use.
I mean, it used to be the simplest. I mean, that was the whole point of it, wasn't it? It was the most simplistic, simple, basic user interface that got the job done, and that was the great thing about it. Now, when I click over it, most of the time I'm trying to click on the inbox, but instead I get chat box. New chat window comes up, and which I never use. And yeah, I know what you mean. But that stage, I think, like you said, the developers were the ones that I sort of felt for when I'm reading about it. Like you said, some indie developers had stuff ready to go, and then it's just the rug pulled from them, and I guess they've got to find another platform. And there was a few big development studios as well that were kind of put out by this as well, weren't there?
There were, yeah. Unfortunately, I've got the names to hand, but it seems it took everyone by. Well, when I say it took everyone by surprise, I think most people were waiting for Google to do something like this, because it's what they do. As you say, the company's culture appears to be launch or revamp, but support, it's fine. So I mean, I'd be a bit concerned because Google is it's still very heavily dependent on its advertising business, which is driven by its search engine, and these other things they've tried to sort of do stuff. You see these services, you see the likes of Gmail, which is very popular. You see the likes of Workspace, which not so popular, although they've sold it to a few big customers. But Google is still very much they're very driven by this one big revenue stream from search. It's whereas you look at Microsoft, I think they've done a very cunning thing in that, of course, Windows was their big thing, and they've very much diversified now. So I mean, I do give Microsoft a hard time about killing services like Media Center, obviously, which is Windows Phone, but you can't deny the fact they have diversified very well.
Yeah, it's they're still upset about my band. We talked about the other week.
The band was great. I mean, the band is one of those things you kind of look at the Apple Watch, which was frankly a joke for the first few versions, and that's now going from strength to strength. You think, if only Microsoft had carried on with the band, they had a whole system go, a whole ecosystem there, and then I guess it didn't fit in with the Microsoft 365 vision, and so it went.
Yeah, real shame. I'll tell you what you can do though. There is a new platform for gaming, isn't there, that you wanted to talk about?
Oh, go on.
Doom on Notepad.
Doom on Notepad, yes. It's where else can you port Doom? I'm still trying to port Doom to a wall of LEDs, and I'm having some real big refresh issues actually. I mean, if anyone's got any tips on the best way to address 64,000 LEDs from a Raspberry Pi, I'm all ears, because right now I'm having major problems refreshing. This is I think a tweet went out over the weekend of a person who'd managed to. It looks as though they're basically rasterizing Doom frames from the Doom game engine as ASCII, which is then loaded into Notepad. So it's not really Doom on Notepad per se. Notepad's being used to render Doom. I think Doom pages is I think how it's working. But it's really cool.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's really good, and it's just amazing, all these things. Doom is now the thing that gets ported everywhere.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, so expect to see Doom on Yeah, well, it's one of those things. It runs on everything. It runs on fridges and car
Yeah,
dashes systems, and
I've seen it running on smart Lego bricks and things, but as I say, at the moment, I'm trying to make it run on a whole load of LED strips, and I just can't get the refresh rate anywhere near fast enough because it's one thing. I mean, I took inspiration from your LED strips example, and it works great for about 100 LEDs. 64,000 doesn't work quite so well because I'm trying to do a 320 by 200 matrix, and it's not working.
Yeah,
without putting too fine a point on it.
I suppose you need some parallel processing there, don't you? Multiple pies, but then how do you sync them up?
There's so many. I mean, I've looked at the Arduino route, and as you say, multiple pies, which kind of respond to changes in a frame, but it's just not particularly good at the moment. So be interested to know if anyone's got any experience with with similar insane efforts, and it is insane.
Yeah, actually, I wonder if my little my one of the Korg synths, I know they use a Raspberry Pi or something like that as a controller for a lot of these stuffs. And in fact, the one has got an OLED display on it, and you can play like the tennis thing. You can play that on it. So I wonder if someone could get Doom to run on one of these things. It wouldn't surprise me. It's probably got the process. It's probably got the processor won't be an issue. It'll just be the screen. But yeah, I love how people get Doom to run on anything.
Yeah, I think someone's even got Doom running on. Is it the Raspberry Pi Pico, the tiny little micro?
Yeah.
I think someone's even managed to get it working on that, even though it's ridiculously low spec. They've managed to actually get it working.
Yeah, it's brilliant, that, isn't it? Who would have thought when they brought that out that it would be running rendered through Notepad years later?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because I mean, when it first came out, I had an Amstrad ALT 386SX. I call it a laptop. It was it had a handle you could carry it around with. This huge great thing, but that could just about play Doom in a postage stamp size box in the center of the screen. You could just about play it because it was so underpowered. And of course now, as you say, it runs on anything.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I think I used to run it on maybe a 386 SX25. Maybe it was a 486. You needed a VGA card though. Oh, in fact, did it run on EGA? No, I think it would have been VGA only, wouldn't it?
I think it was VGA, and I think 486 is what you needed to actually make it. Or it was working on 386DX, I think.
That was it, yeah.
But the SX was so underpowered that it did struggle a bit on that. I mean, the SX is what I used to run it on. As I say, it did run in a tiny little postage stamp size box on the screen.
I learned a lot about networking getting up and running after everybody from where I worked, all the admin staff and all went home, and the engineers was like 4 or 5 of us. We're like, well, how do we make this work over a network? I don't know. Well, let's learn. So that's I taught myself a lot about networking then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it was
playing Doom.
It was the old peer-to-peer NetWare Lite, wasn't it?
IPX.
IPX, and of course the joy of that. I mean, crikey, I can remember whole companies going down because of the way ID was sending the bullet effect, and that was basically swamping IPX networks. I mean, you're going back to the 90s here, but it was swamping networks because of the very inefficient way in which it was being inefficient by modern standards in which it was being done. So you'd kind of fire the chain gun, and the effect of that would be to take down the network, basically. God, network's down.
That was brilliant. That I had so much fun back in the 90s on that. We'd go back to the office and, like I said, wait for all the admin staff to go home, and we'd set up these death matches. Absolutely brilliant. And like the following day, your boss coming, oh, you guys were in late last night. Yeah, we put in a good shift last night.
Working hard, exactly. But Doom is great. I mean, the thing is, Doom is still good. It still works. It's still a fun game. Yeah. It's still a fun game to play. It was still, and it was fun because you had you could do cooperative mode or deathmatch mode. It was just really good fun. And then you had all the mods and things, and it was and I guess it was also gloriously cartoon-like as well. It was it's very blocky, very very simple. Whereas now it's all very it's all very modern. Although that said, I have been playing a 190s throwback, which is Return to Monkey Island.
Oh, is he enjoying that?
Finished it.
It
took 3 days. It took 3 days of solid gameplay, but I can recommend it. It was really good fun.
Oh yeah, I spent hours playing those games in the 90s.
Yeah. And of
in
course,
fact,
it is weird to look at its requirements. It doesn't use that much space. It runs on fairly low spec machines compared to the kind of spec required now for most modern games.
yeah, and it was one of the girlfriend I had at the time. It was one of the few games that she would ever be interested in. Because most games, not, I was only young, but say to girlfriend, look what I play on this game. They weren't interested, but yeah, well, it had that broad appeal, didn't it, and the humour that made it not just sort of hardcore game. It was interesting to a lot of people. So it was those games. I think they started with what Leisure Suit Larry was the first one, was it, or one of the first of that series?
I think it was you had Maniac Mansion.
Oh yes,
Day the Tentacle.
Oh yes, of course.
And there was obviously Monkey Island. You had Seven Max Hit the Road as well. I think Leisure Suit Larry, wasn't that Sierra Online?
It was, yes, you're right. Yeah, the others were
Whereas
Lucas.
Monkey Island was LucasArts. Yeah,
and
I mean Leisure Suit Larry was okay. It was amusing, but I think
there's a lot of schoolboy humour in it.
Yeah, but I think the engine they used for certainly things like their Tentacle and Many Mansion was, and the writing was I think a lot cleverer as well.
Yes, it was. They were good humour. It's something I don't know whether it's missing from games now, but it had tongue in cheek sort of. It wasn't like it wasn't a multi-million-dollar development with It was a fun game. I'm sure it was probably expensive at its time because it was a great technology at the time. But the gameplay and the storyline and everything else was really the thing, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly. And the thing is, a lot of those LucasArts games have actually really stood the test of time. Yeah, they do still stand up now. I mean, it's I was playing the old Monkey Island game with my 10-year-old who was entranced by it. She just loved it.
Yeah, so, it's got that appeal.
It's got the puzzles are in there. It's got nice cartoon graphics and things. It's appealing. It's got good music, and of course, it's got some good voices too. Because of course back in those days, you go for the floppy disk version, which had no audio apart from the iffy MIDI music, or you'd have the CD version, which had all the audio tracks as well.
Yes, I don't think I had the CD. I may have had the floppy drive version, but if you got the AW 16 or the AW 30, especially if you got the AW 32, you got real sounds.
Yeah, or the Roland card. Wow, the Roland card was amazing.
Fantastic. All that Roland chips were fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I was almost disappointed when I fired it up on my my Intel sort of recentish Intel laptop, and it sounded amazing. I thought, oh no! I can remember back in the day, I went from a Sound Blast 8-bit to Sound Blast 16. It was so excited. This is just a bog standard laptop. It sounds incredible. Oh dear.
Yeah, those old the AW cards or the Sound Blaster, actually the Sound Blaster Pro 16 with a FM Yamaha chips, one of the synths that I've got over there. They sold that to Sound Blaster.
Any second now, we're going to have to start talking about IRQs and DMAs.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah, of course. Because I remember you fiddled around to get your IRQs because the sound card was also your CD driver, wasn't it? That's what you connect your CD drive up to your sound card.
Ian, we have become old.
Yeah, that's when Jack was building his gaming PC. I said, you're just putting cards in. You're not worrying about IRQs and jumpers and DMAs and all that.
Where's his jumpers? Oh, I do it through the BIOS screen. What? No. We have pins and jumpers and things. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember buying sound card and DVD combo as a set because you couldn't. There was nothing to plug. CD. There was nothing to plug in.
It was a sound card and a CD-ROM combo.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because otherwise you couldn't just. There was nowhere to plug a CD-ROM into, was there? Without that.
No, and the CD-ROM you'd go for the Mitsumi? That was such a big, huge one that would go in the 5.5 inch bay, and the whole drive would come out. Yes, but that was the one that. I think it was double speed.
No, I got double speed first. Yeah.
Yeah, and wow, crikey. So we have gone back to the 80s and 90s now, but those are the days. Windows 3.1 and 1.1 with the multimedia extensions. Happy days.
Oh yeah, that was great. Yeah, and of course you just dropped down to DOS for playing Doom. You wouldn't want Windows in the way, would you?
Oh no, crikey! Yeah. You make sure you allowed as much memory as possible. So yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. I learned so much about memory allocation and stuff in those days, just trying to get games working.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's and it wasn't this is crikey, we are sounding so old now, but it wasn't education in how the underlying tech worked, because to get Doom working, you had to understand networking, you had to work out how things worked, you understand how cards work, the hardware interactions. It was a useful education. Whereas now, I mean, I whinge about Windows blowing up a lot, but most of it just works really. And I think it's when things spectacularly don't work that people, maybe if they had more understanding of what's going on behind the scenes, perhaps they wouldn't have so many issues. Or if things weren't so complex, you wouldn't have quite so many attacks happening.
Yes, yeah, that's right. I mean, you've got these things are all attack vectors now, aren't they? With and you've got like 0-day vulnerabilities. You didn't really worry about those back then.
No, not at all. But things were again a lot simpler. But it's different times. I mean, you witnessed Microsoft's attempts to kill off SMBP1 file networking because, of course, it's it was great in the 90s. It's not great now because it's now got a massive attack area. So yeah, it's a challenge. But we have Ignite to look forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, it's actually times like that where I'm glad I don't run my own Exchange server when I see these 0-day vulnerabilities.
Oh yeah. Well, it was never fun. It was never fun running Exchange anywhere. But I guess the slight problem with not running your own Exchange server is it's coming down to the current big thing, which is one of data sovereignty. Where's your data being stored? We're getting very enterprising now, I'm afraid, but it is a concern because if you use Exchange and use cloud email services, you have to know in order to be compliant with your local country's regulations where that data is being stored. You have to know that.
Yeah.
And it's a major. So Microsoft will blindly say, "Oh, well, if you're using Microsoft 365, you're fine." It's like, good, I'm pleased it's fine, but I need to know where the data is being stored because otherwise my auditors will probably have a chat to me about that. So yeah, it's all fun. It's going to be an interesting, if maybe somewhat boring time ahead.
Yes, definitely is. Yeah.
Whatever much. So Ian, I guess we have Ignite coming up. So you've got your sessions you signed up for. So what sessions are you going for?
Well, I've only actually really probably watched the keynote, and then maybe I watch panels and see what they got to talk about with that. And like I said, the power platform stuff. Some of that is quite interesting from a day job point of view. So I may catch some of that. Depends on the timings of it, but yeah, I think there are a few bits that have piqued my interest anyway. So, but we can talk about that next week and what devices we get to. I really hope there's something not leaked and really interesting and from Microsoft and not just sort of refreshes.
I mean, I hope so too, and I hope the same for I hope the same for for Google and also Apple and Amazon, because it's just like I find these leaks. It's almost like finding out what you get for Christmas before Christmas. You kind of don't. I don't want to spoil it. I want to actually see these things, and because otherwise the excitement is kind of the edge has gone from it, and it is exciting. There's no two ways around it. Although even if a new Surface device is not that exciting, if I'm honest, but but there could be a surprise. I mean, the surprise I would love to see is Surface Studio, maybe. A kind of Surface Studio screen, perhaps. I'd love to see that. I don't think we're going to. I'd love to see it.
Yeah. So I agree. I'd like to see one, and I don't think we will see one. The most I'm holding out for is a new Go with ARM chip. But even I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't one, and it's just an updated one with the Intel processors.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, I do wonder if Windows and ARM on the desktop. I mean, I know Microsoft is pushing it hard, but if that time has passed somewhat. And Microsoft is now going to be using that tech in servers.
Yes, yeah, we'll see. So, we'll find out on next week's show.
Yes, exciting.
There's a couple of links I'll include in the show notes with the build hands-on video with build 25211, but there wasn't much in it.
We didn't mention the build at all, did we, really?
No, there was nothing really significant in that, and a couple of interesting. What was interesting hasn't been released yet. It's like, yeah, it's coming for insiders soon. The one thing, the drag and drop of the taskbar, look, the system tray looked quite interesting, but
yes.
I haven't got that yet.
And I was also delighted to see that on some builds they brought back the right-click task manager.
Oh yes, then that is good. Now that is on the new builds.
Because I've really missed that. It's like, I don't know why has that taken so long to come back. It's like, that was such a big miss. It's like, why have you took it away? We all shouted, and it's like, how hard? I hate to say it, but how hard can it be to bring that back?
Yeah, that's back. And like I said, Tab File Explorer is rolling out as well. So there's a few things coming, but yeah, it would be nice to see some new stuff. Maybe this is the time. They've got a Surface event, they've got Ignite to show some really great new stuff coming to Windows 11. But I suspect, as all these things are, they're mature products now, so we'll just see little bits and pieces coming in.
Ignite's all about the ecosystem build. I think would be where the cool stuff is, but maybe Volterra. I don't know. I'm still hopeful.
Okay, well, we'll find out. So, where can we find you and follow you in your space exploits?
Yes, you can find me mostly on Twitter at Richard_Speed, and I will be waffling about space a lot, I'm afraid.
Oh, excellent. Well, that's good to know. And I'm at iSticks on Twitter, so I will play out with one of my newer tracks, and we'll see you back next week.
Okay.